Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Cooking Chinese-ish Food as a White Person. On this set of episodes, we will be doing twice cooked pork, not porch, which can be applied to beef if you so wish. So as you can see here, I have my pork. Here's a hand for size reference. That we will be using. Previously, this was one large chunk that I cut into quarters, so it was all together kind of like this. And I just did cut it down the middle with the cross section thing. I also, just for myself to see what the texture of it comes out with, I did sear the outside of it. I will now be putting this in water with some cooking alcohol and also some peppercorns, which I will be showing the amount that I do and trying to measure to some extent so the fellow white people watching this can understand how they can also make their food more Chinese-ish. And that will be in the next installment of this. Welcome to the second installment of cooking Chinese food, Chinese-ish food as a white person. So normally I just dump stuff in, but I have this measuring thing, but the measuring thing number has worn off. I think it's a tablespoon. I think. So we'll go with it being a tablespoon. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of cooking alcohol and 1 tablespoon of Sichuan peppercorns, which might be enough. 2 tablespoons of Sichuan peppercorn and 3 tablespoons of alcohol would also be acceptable. Less than 1 of Sichuan peppercorn and 2 of cooking alcohol, I feel like that would not be enough. But 1 of the peppercorn and 2 of the alcohol should be enough. You could do more. You could like double that, and it would probably be fine. I mean, if you really wanted some flavor in there, you could probably triple all of it, especially the peppercorn. The alcohol you can do too much on, but then you are just boiling in it at this point. So we will get all that added in, and we will see where we are. And we are back because I have to have 2 hands to do that. I can't do that with one, so I can't record it while I'm doing it. Now we're going to put the pork in. I like to put it in after it's boiling. I mean, it feels appropriate to do that. That way the outside goes ahead and starts cooking. So yeah, it's the pork. That in there. Just want to make sure that it's covered. Due to the shape of this wok, I may actually want to add a bit more just because these are long. And then we're going to let that cook for 10 to 15 minutes. You still want it to be, for my purposes, I think it works out pretty good if it's still rare inside. It's perfectly fine to cook it all the way through. That is very acceptable. So I think I will do 10 minutes this time, and we'll see how that comes out. Then we will put it in the refrigerator and leave it there overnight. I normally would actually do this later today because it's still early in the day here and I can do this for dinner. The problem is we are low on green onions. That is all we have. If I do all of them, that might be enough. I'll see, maybe. But this, I normally like to put a lot of green onions in it at the end. And if we don't have enough green onions, and it's supposed to stay in the refrigerator overnight, I might just save it and we'll just eat it tomorrow. But once we're getting this out and putting it in the refrigerator, we will do the next installment, which would be the 4th installment of cooking Chinese-ish food as a white person. Okay, as just to add into the previous installment, you do want to turn it down so it's just simmering. You don't want to leave it on high. It'd be kind of ridiculous to leave it on high. Just turn it down to lower temperature so you still got some simmer there. You don't want to leave it on high. That's just a waste. Welcome to the 4th installment of cooking Chinese-ish food as a white person. The pork is now out of the pot, and just wanted to show off what the inside of it looked like and kind of what it looks like before we put it in the refrigerator. This is the pork now. As you can still, it's completely cooked through, so it has very good structural integrity, which is kind of what I want. I don't want it to be falling apart, so the cooked part gives it a nice toughness to it, so it isn't just flopping all over the place. But then it's still a little, well, it's still quite a bit pink. It's rare enough on the inside that you would not want to eat it if it's pork. If it were beef, I mean, that would be fine. I actually like beef a lot rarer. We eat rare beef. Yeah, so now we're just going to put this in the refrigerator and let that sit until this evening. If I decide to just use up all the green onions, which I might. It's probably what I'll do. I think that'll be enough. That'd be appropriate. I just have to get more green onions. And then over here, this is the water that it was done in. I'm actually going to cook this down and save that as stock for something else at some other point. There's actually a decent amount of fat on the pork, which a lot of it would have cooked off into there and will actually be quite good and flavorful. Plus, with all the peppercorns in there, you do have to strain the peppercorns out because that gets kind of annoying having a lot of peppercorns floating around in your food. So yeah, that is it for the 4th installment of cooking Chinese-ish food as a white person. Most likely there will be another installment of it this evening as it is being finished up. Now for an additional add-on to the previous installment of cooking Chinese-ish food as a white person. This is the finished stock. It looks really good. It's going to have a decent amount of fat mixed in there. Also, this is a really nice wok that we have been using, and so there is a lot of flavor that has been sealed into that. That always tends to get into whatever we cook. There was one time I took just normal baitai, Chinese cabbage, and just fried it in there, and like it got a really good, like, smoky flavor. Like, just you could taste the flavor, like without any other seasonings in there. It absorbed a lot of flavor just from the wok, with not even oil in there. Which, I mean, I like to sear it in there without the oil first to get water out. Kind of steams it a bit, I guess. So yes, that is it for the add-on. And this is Tasua, our current foster kitten. Tasua, say something. Well, there you have it. He is actually going back tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. He'll be getting neutered, and we'll probably just go ahead and leave him there to recover for whenever he can go up for adoption. Now for, I think it's the 5th installment of cooking Chinese-ish food as a white person. This is the, I guess you could say, part 2 of the second part of Twice Cooked Pork. The whole first set of installments was the first cooked part, and now it has been removed from the refrigerator, and we are preparing things for the second cooking phase. So the second cooking phase is going to be separated up into the prep and the cook, and then the seasoning part of it. So for the prep part, there's a couple of different things. First of all, this is the meat after it has sat in the refrigerator for, oh no, like 7 hours or something since I sent the messages this morning, however long that's been, 5-6 hours. It dehydrates quite a bit, which is what gives it a lot of the texture. I've already gone ahead and took the liberty to go ahead and start cutting up a piece. You can see that it is still raw on the inside, but it has a nice, like it stays structurally put, but it's still a little bit raw. And then I'm going to cut all of it into thin-ish slices like this. Also, the fat tends to coagulate. No, I got it. Thin-ish slices like this. The fat tends to coagulate, which actually ends up cooking up really nicely. Also, you're going to want to prepare green onions, which are cut up like this. You don't want them too small. And also ginger. You can also include additional peppers if you want. These are some serrano peppers that I've been using in some stuff that I have also cut up. Everything else is just going to be spices and stuff that should be prepared. I will get to that whenever we get to the cooking phase of it. So I'll come back after I get done getting this chopped up, and then I will show you the various things that are going to be fried in the pan as we do the first part of the cooking. Welcome back to the 6th installment, I hope I counted correctly, of cooking Chinese-ish food as a white person.
Oh my gosh, you got it!
So Annie is trying to do some stuff with her face, so she deliberately moved the table away from the couch so that the kitten would not come over here. The kitten jumped anyway and got there. Okay, so back to this. The things that have been fried in here are the spices that I showed you earlier, the ginger, the serrano peppers, which I decided to add. You can add whatever you want. I've also added in peppercorn, same like 1-2 tablespoons. I added in an entire serrano pepper and a few slices of ginger that I then cut in half. So like 4 or 5 slices, and then I cut in half. I've also added in dried red peppers. And, well, this is raw peppercorn, 2 tablespoons. So, very important thing with the red peppers. As you can see, there's quite a few red peppers in there. Broken red peppers, that you break them open and you get the seeds in the oil, are very different from the exact same peppers that you leave whole and leave in there. If you leave it whole and you don't break them open, then the oil that you put it in, it doesn't pull out the capsaicin and stuff in the actual seeds, and it just stays as a whole pepper, and they're only painful if you eat the pepper. It doesn't distribute as much oil in the dish. So I did 4 peppers, which is quite a bit of spice for these peppers. I did 4 of these peppers in the oil broken and made sure I got the seeds in there. The rest of them I left whole because Annie particularly likes it to have whole ones in there. They do absorb a lot of flavor in there in the pepper themselves. If they're not terrifyingly spicy, it is actually pretty good to eat the peppers that have been fried in all the stuff that you're cooking. So also something that I discovered is it's quite good to cook this on a low heat. Previously I'd always done it on high, but you can't do it for very long before it starts to burn. If you do it on a really low heat, this is on low, I normally do it on like 2 or 3 with some oil in the pan. You can leave it there for a long time, relatively speaking, and it can pull a lot of the flavors out of the stuff in there, and it never actually starts to burn it, which can be quite nice. Now, again, this is on the cast iron wok that I have, and so it does do differently than a nonstick pan. I like it a lot more than a nonstick pan. Also, the meat. So this is the meat. I didn't put it all in one thing because I ran out of space in the bowl. This is everything that I have. And in the 7th installment, I will be cooking this, which is what I'm about to. I'm going to throw it in here. I'm going to cook it around as it starts to... Actually, I guess I could go ahead and start that process. And I'm going to let that cook part of the way through. Go ahead and get all the raw that's left in the meat out of the meat. And then I will be adding in the spices. So I'm going to start that process. And then we'll stop, cook it the rest of the way off camera. And then I will show you what I add in after I'm done cooking it. After it gets cooked all the way through. So let's add this in. It's quite full. As you can see, some of the pieces are still quite pink in the middle. Also, the cast iron is nice because I can use a metal thing. That's fine. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this up to high. I'm sure this is absolutely amazing camera work. We're going to get that cooked down. Make sure I just move it around a lot. To be honest, this is a lot more than I would prefer for this pan. I think previously I had split it up into multiple batches, but I keep forgetting to do that. Honestly, for the size of this pan, it would be better to have it half as thick. You really want as much surface area of the meat touching the pan as possible. So I will get this cooked the rest of the way through, and then I will get back before I season it in the final step, because I mean, most of the stuff I cook, the seasoning is split up into 2 stages. There's the spices that you fry, and then there's the seasonings that you add right before you take it out of the pan. Welcome to the 8th and final installment of cooking Chinese-ish food as a white person. So here you can see the final product. Twice cooked pork. Kind of. By a white dude. As you can see, the green onions give it a nice contrast to the brown and kind of yellowish color of the fat as it's cooked. It plates up quite nicely. The green onions also tend to cook as they're just sitting in there on it after I've turned it off and I just mix them up in there. So yeah. Now's the best part, where we eat it, and it's delicious.
Show this